Hello, my name is Lynn. Welcome to On What Slender Threads. This is the introduction to a 12-part series on each of AA's traditions from a historical perspective. Why did I choose the title On What Slender Threads? I was listening to a 1954 talk given by Bill W. in Fort Worth. He was describing how the early fellowship eagerly anticipated a flood of money coming from Rockefeller Jr. At this crucial moment, Bill paused and said in his usual humorous way, "On what slender threads our destiny hangs." Of course, the donation turned out to be much smaller, but in the end, it established the principle of corporate poverty for AA. I am reasonably certain Bill had read or heard about the quote, "On what slender threads do life and fortune hang," from The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. But this important event, along with many other events in AA's early history, led me to believe that the 12 traditions are AA's slender threads. So how did this all come about? When the pandemic began in 2020, I joined a lot of my friends online to support each other by reading AA literature. We started with the Big Book and then moved on to the 12 and 12, while I sprinkled bits and pieces of history from books published by the General Service Office of Alcoholics Anonymous. They included Pass It On, The Language of the Heart, Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers, Our Great Responsibility, and Alcoholics Anonymous Comes of Age. These wonderful resources help me and my online friends to fill in a lot of information about the development of the traditions. I also folded in what I was learning from William Schaberg's Writing the Big Book, The Creation of AA, and Ernest Kurtz's Not God, A History of Alcoholics Anonymous. Besides providing a clear chronology of AA's early development, Schaberg's book helped to debunk many of the myths surrounding AA's early members. Kurtz's book portrayed Bill's pain-filled process in trying to turn over responsibility for AA to the AA groups. Connecting the wonderful findings of these two researchers to the traditions and discussing this with my online friends resulted in a seismic shift in my understanding of Bill W.'s motives for writing the traditions. The number of the participants on the online study slowly grew and started to extend to AAs who were weathering the pandemic in Europe. This resulted in more questions and more knowledge being shared by participants. They directed me to other wonderful resources such as Audrey Borden's History of Gay People in Alcoholics Anonymous and the Browns' Mrs. Marty Mann. And this certainly does not capture all of the resources that we used. We also consulted the AA Service Manual and pamphlets provided by the General Service Office, which enriched and informed all of us in this online study. And of course, we should not forget the most important resource of all, Alcoholics Anonymous, the Big Book. This online study evolved to a 12-week workshop on the traditions from a historical perspective. Participants continued to help me grow in my own understanding of the traditions. As I was conducting these workshops, I was careful to avoid perpetuating AA myths. I did this by keeping all the resources close by while I did the workshop. My dining room table held the computer and a stack of books, pamphlets, and other resources, all carefully tabbed with stickies so that I could grab the pertinent reference from each resource quickly. While I was scrambling to find a resource, one of my friends said, "You need to write a book." And so I compiled our resources and wrote On What Slender Threads, AA's 12 Traditions from a Historical Perspective. The first version was hurriedly completed and self-published. I was relieved that it would be available to my friends who wanted those resources, and I thought that would be the end of that. But I was wrong. There was so much enthusiasm for the book. Friends who were sharing with other friends were asking me to give more presentations. While they and others were reading the book, they were gently and kindly pointing out errors, most typographical, some originating from my using using out-of-date resources, and others that called for more clarity in prose and in describing AA structure. I decided to revise and update the book. Notice the word revised at the top. Then, with the help of a talented friend, I created a website that I could make available a document called an errata sheet, which compiled all the changes to save the people who had already bought the book from having to buy it again. Also, I found that it was a good way to announce upcoming workshops. The website is at www.onwhatslenderthreads.com. The book chronicles the inspiring journey of a fellowship of alcoholics and non-alcoholic friends from December 1934 to April 1965. From one tradition to the next, it culminates in Bill W.'s last battle for alcoholics, a battle he finally won less than 6 years before he died. Then, I started becoming very concerned about the information in the book getting to my overseas friends. Buying and sending the book overseas was expensive. I also wanted the material to be readily available to anyone who couldn't buy the book. So as I gave more workshops, I started posting the slides and audio for each tradition on my website. I was thrilled that people could now access slides with the highlights of each chapter, along with an audio of each workshop. My main goal was to share what I had learned with my AA family. So now, it is not necessary to buy the book unless you'd like to have it as a resource. This YouTube presentation, along with the other presentations on my website, will hopefully be easy to access and be helpful to anyone who wants to understand the traditions from a historical perspective. In keeping with their wish for anonymity, I avoid using the last names of Bill W. and Dr. Bob. For the sake of historical clarity, I may use the last names of other early members who were referenced in materials. For my part, I will remain anonymous. I am but a small part of a great whole that helped to bring this book to fruition. I am not a spokesperson for AA. Any inferences in this study are strictly my own and in no way reflect the opinion of Alcoholics Anonymous. For many years, I thought I had a good understanding of the traditions. What I learned from this study and from working with others completely transformed that understanding. I hope you enjoy these presentations and find them helpful. And if you do, please pass it on. So now we are ready to begin the next video on Tradition 1. Thank you.